The UK is filled with creepy places, from remote ancient woodlands to old creaking mansions, all the way to the horrifyingly boring Milton Keynes. But there's one location that trumps them all. A town so mysterious it's been called the UK's Twin Peaks. A setting fraught with whisperings of hauntings, host to cults and fringe religions, as well as the UK's most mystical forest, with its own history of Satanism, Nazi-related rituals, and druids that are said to dance naked in the night. The town is called East Grinstead, and I wanted to know if it was as mysterious as its legacy of tales. After all, as a hideously serious investigative journalist, I'm never one to let a good story get in the way of the truth.
Come on inside.
So we've touched down in East Grinstead, which is known as the UK's creepiest town, and we're basically on the hunt for a bit of magic and mystery, which I'm very excited about. Not really something we've written a script for, so we're just going to look around for magic and for mystery. Throughout this in the piece of cams, you guys can also interact with me. We'll make it a bit more chilled out, a bit more conversational, you know what I mean?
Well, we'll speak to you.
Why are you scared?
I'm not scared, I just need you to stop standing there silently filming, do you know what I mean?
It's more like a vlog.
Like, just talk. It's more like a vlog. Be funny on camera.
Don't make me look like a prick.
After a delightful drive into West Sussex, I found myself confronted with a quaint and extremely quiet town. Not a single druid or ghost in sight. So I decided to begin my search by chatting to some locals. Very strange question. We're filming a documentary on East Grinstead. I don't suppose you got 2 minutes.
No.
That's alright. That's no problem at all.
I would love to.
Yeah?
Maybe I'll get her to the taxi.
No problem. Excuse me, mate. Is it? We're doing a documentary on East. Alright. It wasn't going particularly well.
I think he's coming. Go.
And of the people who did talk to me, they seemed to stray quickly off topic.
Dogging.
Oh, dogging. There's dogging is.
Grave Thai car park.
My first day in East Grinstead was not particularly lucrative.
Go to enough places.
Like, what's the plan?
The plan is just creepy stuff happens here. Like, it's.
What, the plan is creepy.
You don't have a f***ing plan?
What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
Sorry. I want you to say sorry.
I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. What do you want me to f***ing do, man?
Thankfully for me, East Grinstead had a surprise in store. Buried in the hills outside the town was an old manor that played host to one of the world's most infamous creeds, the Church of Scientology, and I needed to check it out.
Tits.
These days, everybody knows about Scientology, religion or alien cult, depending on who you ask. History of being quite nasty to journalists. And East Grinstead is actually the UK's home base for Scientologists. In fact, of the town's 26,000 residents, 1,000 are said to be Scientologists. A striking figure considering there are only around 2,500 practicing Scientologists in the entire country. Scientology, a combination of psychotherapy and alien literature created by L. Ron Hubbard, began to sweep the United States in the late 1940s, but it also found a loyal base of practitioners here in the UK, and East Grinstead was Hubbard's town of choice. That creepy building over there, St Hill Manor, was purchased in 1959 by L. Ron Hubbard, and it's actually where Tom Cruise apparently spent his lockdown, just chilling amongst the natural beauty of Sussex and presumably reading those mental books about space alien lords. In the late 80s, author Stuart Lamont released Religion Inc., a very mean book that lambasted Scientology as a scandalous cult. But every copy available in East Grinstead was bought up by a single man. So clearly there's a strong historical relationship between Scientologists, a sect of people without much contemporary footing in the UK, and the sleepy town of East Grinstead. But I needed to know why. You alright, mate? We're just doing a documentary on like all the different sort of like cultures within East Grinstead.
We only get these interviews done over appointment.
Okay, right.
Yeah, gets an email in, gets an appointment. I'll give you the
I can check on the website too. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, man. And I don't suppose there's any chance you'd be up for like a 2-minute interview just about your job here, sort of your interaction?
No, we're not allowed to.
The only thing is, I'm going to level you, man. This is going poorly. This documentary so far, really, they're not managing to speak to many people.
Okay, one moment, please. That was a f***ing waste of time.
It's journalism. It's difficult.
Yeah, you're not a journalist.
Shut up! Shut up! I wasn't doing particularly well. The Church of Scientology politely replied to my email, declining an interview with a link to their own documentary, adding, "We don't feel we need to add to what we have already made available ourselves." Once again, East Grinstead seemed impenetrable.
Be with you everywhere.
I also came to the realisation that I'd given the Church of Scientology, a group known for harassing journalists, my full name and address, like the dumb prick I am. Max Tobin, Maxtobin. If I was going to investigate the mystery of the town any further, I needed to travel to the centre of all its history. Ashdown Forest, an ancient woodland spanning more than 20 square miles, and a centre for all manner of magical, menacing stories. So, we've arrived in Ashdown Forest, which seems to be pretty much the last hope of salvaging this episode. The forest is said to be the site of conjunctions in ancient ley lines, theorised straight lines that run through the landscape, channels of energy that connect various landmarks and, according to some more zealous storytellers, act as a guide for alien spacecraft. And it's perhaps this geospiritual phenomenon that's attracted Ashdown's cast of wacky characters, from geomancers to Satanists to, well, doggers.
I don't know much about druid cultures, but I'm pretty sure that like most animals, they're frightened of big sticks.
Rumours of druid and Wiccan meetups in the woods even seem to have some truth to them. Local park ranger Michael Yates is on record as having had to break up a druid ceremony, as the sight of robed people and smoke was scaring locals, and we had timed our visit with the pagan festival of Lunasa, in the hopes of crashing one of these mystical ceremonies, a plan that seemed to be paying dividends when we received a tip-off from a local. We've had a genuine tip-off that there are robed people in the area, so we're hoping we can find them. We're in the local spot of woods. We're effectively hunting for druids at this point. One of Ashdown's most remarkable and insane stories dates all the way back to World War II. British secret services were concerned that senior Nazis were apparently developing an interest in the occult, with Hitler studying books about witchcraft and Goebbels incorporating fortune-telling, astrology and necromancy into Nazi propaganda. So MI6 hired Cecil Williamson, a screenwriter and neo-pagan warlock, yes this is actually true, and Williamson then founded the British Witchcraft Research Centre to investigate occult phenomena over in Nazi Germany. It was then that Williamson hatched a pretty wild plan, a fake witchy ceremony in Ashdown Forest, named Operation Mistletoe. So apparently Williamson rounded up a bunch of Canadian soldiers, stuck them in robes and got man dancing around burning effigies of Hitler. The idea was that word would get back to the Third Reich and the Nazis would be all demoralised. You know, they'd think, the UK are using witches too. Better call off the whole world domination thing, lest we get cursed rotten. Ashdown Forest was full of mental stories like this, but I had hoped to experience the enchanted firsthand. And amazingly, it wasn't long before we experienced something all too real.
I guess, like, you know, in reality, from what we've learned, we might bump into druids, but we also just might bump into doggers. So be prepared for that too.
And of course, the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
That's very true, Dylan. Well, I hope you brought some Johnnies just in case.
The druids believe in that.
In dogging?
In Johnny's.
I've only got one anyway.
To share?
You could probably use that as a Johnny if you skinned it.
Oh God, doesn't feel right, does it? Seeing a slug. Seeing a slug in the forest, it doesn't feel right.
Mine, mate, bumped into Ollie Mers in a toilet.
Shh. Right, jump, give me that. There's either a person or there's people. Excuse me? We're not trying to chase you, if you can hear me, we're just making a documentary. Excuse me? Hello?
I think we missed him. I think we lost him.
Our encounter with this mysterious robed figure left me even more confused. From Scientologists to ley lines to Nazis and now to a cloaked individual scuttling round through the woods before our very eyes. It was clear East Grinstead had earned its reputation as a strange and unsettling place, but I didn't have any concrete answers that could explain why these seemingly disconnected mysteries were all localised in one small medieval town. There was one final place to visit that could tie this strange enigma together: the local library. In terms of the sort of folklore of East Grinstead and these stories that seem to congregate on the area, is there any historical or geographical explanation for why that might be the case?
It's interesting that it's 30 miles away from London and it's 30 miles away from Brighton as well. So I think that when you put those two things together, it's a perfect place for kind of settlement, really, in a sense, in terms of trade.
This point might seem anodyne, but it couldn't be discounted in explaining the strangeness of East Grinstead. When the Romans invaded Britain in 43 AD, the area surrounding East Grinstead already had a rich history of ironmaking and huge reserves of clay. And as trade in the country developed, East Grinstead became a crucial stagecoach drop-off between the capital and other areas of the country. This consummated the town's position as an area of sublime, rural beauty that remained extremely close to London. In other words, exactly the quiet but well-connected spot you might choose to build an estate or a manor, creating an abundance of stately homes to be purchased by influential aristocrats, celebrities, and religious fanatics, and contributing to East Grinstead's rich history. Now, this might explain the presence of various fringe creeds and organisations in the town, but it doesn't explain how they all appear to exist so harmoniously.
One group have come here and been well accepted, so then another group have come and the same things happened to them.
Would you say that that's a sort of important part of East Grinstead's culture?
Yeah, we are very tolerant, and I think part of that reason is after the war there were often people called the Guinea Pig Club, and they were people that had been injured in the war, and Archibald McKindy restructured their faces and they would walk around with sort of still disfigurements, but people didn't take any notice, they just accepted them and took them for what they were.
And perhaps this is what could decipher East Grinstead's allure of mystery. Maybe it was a place of commendable tolerance, a place where people who might be mocked or discriminated against elsewhere, from disfigured war veterans and practitioners of unconventional religions to atypical spiritualists, could find acceptance and calm. A town that doesn't stare. And the more I thought about it, I could see why the residents didn't appreciate having a camera shoved in their face.
Scientologists, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses and whatnot, and I know loads of people in those fields. Right. And I have plenty of time for them because they're all really, really, really nice people.
Yeah.
And whatever you believe in, you're a person.
Despite the wildly eclectic beliefs on display in the town, here was a peaceful shared community that didn't judge. And here was me, with my camera team and my obnoxious nasal voice and my snide Scientology jokes. Somehow at no point in the making of this pseudo-documentary had I considered that the weirdest and most villainous presence in East Grinstead might be myself, and if I didn't already feel bad enough, I also had to come to terms with faking the entire druid bit. The bloke in the robes had of course been Jambo all along. I'm going to say that we had a tip-off of robed people in the area. I think that makes it makes more sense if I said there was a tip-off. I was indeed a dirty showbiz trickster. But there was one last explanation for East Grinstead that made me feel a lot better about the whole thing.
There's a rich kind of story, a kind of history of folk storytelling, and it's a self-perpetuating thing. And actually, those stories get passed on from generation to generation. The myths kind of evolve, and it just adds to this sense of this kind of sort of magical realism about the place that nobody quite knows where it comes from.
And maybe this was the theory that tied everything together: the power of stories. Perhaps the real mystery of East Grinstead was the mystery itself. The folklore, warped and exaggerated through generations, sensationalised in media articles, attracting more spiritual oddities, more camera-equipped tourists, and in time, more stories. We hadn't come into contact with any real magic or mystery during our East Grinstead trip, but we had enjoyed absorbing its myth, and I left feeling like that was enough. But a few days after the shoot, whilst nostalgically perusing the What's Happening in East Grinstead Facebook page, I saw something truly magical. A local dog walker named Simon Simons had posted an image of Jambo all robed up, lurking about in Ashdown Forest. Simon clearly believed that he'd spotted some mystical figure. I couldn't quite believe my eyes. The post provoked a litany of comments, ranging from skepticism to wild speculation about the presence of Satanists in town. It was then that I realised we had ourselves become part of East Grinstead's mythos. Our own investigation had itself perpetuated the legend. It was a wonderful sight, and one that was almost magic in its ability to tie this episode together. Of course, in reality, I faked that too. The whole thing was a Photoshop job, a desperate last-minute effort to provide some epiphanic closure to an episode that, on all accounts, hadn't actually illuminated a thing. I had even planned to fake the fake out all along.
I'm going to come up and I'm going to say we had a tip-off in the area, so that then in the edit we can show how we're faking it.
But did I feel bad? Did I This was show business, and East Grinstead was as much my own magical theatre as it was an actual living town with people in it. And as one of Big Dill's classic tall tales on the drive home illuminated, why let the truth get in the way of a good story?
And one of them is that Gordon Ramsay and and Ross Kemp.
You're lying.
That's true.
Gordon
No, the way
Ramsay
she,
and
the way,
Ross Kemp.
genuinely, the way she tells it is, Gordon Ramsay like fancied it,
Right.
and Ross Kemp was like, yeah, all right.
They're two men that are probably like slammers.
They're both, yeah. What you're saying, an immovable object and an irresistible force.
I reckon they're just 69.
Yeah.